Back live tonight here in Focus, and thanks for staying on. Gauteng Transport MEC Kedibone Diale-Tlabela today met with the two warring taxi associations in Soweto. She met officials with the Newzroom West Taxi Association and the Witwatersrand African Taxi Association to address the ongoing dispute over the dialogue. Taxi commuters in some parts of Soweto are repeatedly stranded due to the ongoing tensions. Now, for more on this outcome of the meeting, we're joined by the MEC now, who is with us in studio. MEC, good to have you, and thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you very much, Bratawa, and good evening to you and your viewers.
So we've got, on the one aspect, the violence that is beginning to affect commuters, communities nearby, and businesses, and everybody else that's becoming affected. It's becoming a police issue, that needs to be enforced and be looked at. On the other end, then you've got the issue that brings us to this point of conflict. And there's a sense that some of your officials could have been, involved in the overlapping of routes and whatnot and whatever else. And that in itself needs to be addressed. And then there is the understanding that needs to come from the association in how you are dealing with this particular matter. How are you addressing all these three issues?
How I wish it was so easy to resolve it overnight and we get over it and we all move on with our lives. But it's proven to be a very complex matter. Sorry, I have flu. It's proven to be a very complex matter that requires us, and that's what we are seeing us doing now, to consult widely. My predecessors dealt with this before, and almost all of them came up to a particular end. And when we do our investigation, what might have went wrong with how they implemented their decision was that one of the things at the core of the dispute is the routes. The routes, it's a route dispute or conflict where two associations has operating licenses for those routes. And these are two associations that do not agree that they must have that. And as a result, in trying to resolve that, they resort to a gun and killing one another. And ordinary citizens then are caught into that crossfire. So one of the things that my predecessors did, I think that Msunkutu did the 6 months thing while consulting with them, withdrew the permits and closed the ranks. But then, now the question is, how different are we now? If we are to close the roads, if we are to withdraw the permits for 6 months, are we solving the problem? Because Mama Bolo also did that. West Mama Bolo made them to sign a pledge that will coexist, will work together.
A whole conference, and they ended up signing a pledge.
A lot of money thrown to a problem, and still it's not helping us. They've went to courts, both of them, both associations. They all have court orders. And their court orders, it's about tell this one to stop threatening us. And the issue is, and the bone of contention is, we're fighting for these routes. So the different thing we're coming with as now the Department of Transport, while accepting that there are leaks in the system and we need to fix them. And that's why we have started trying to put together a comprehensive plan on how are we going to fix the leaks that are there, the weaknesses in the system. And secondly, what needs to be done is amendments to the operating licenses as well as to the routes.
Yeah. Because Mabungabo says, no, there's a simple report that tells the MEC, these are our routes, and she must just implement it. It seems she's not wanting to follow this thing.
Okay, but yeah, give them a polo, Undocumented says, these are my routes. They are in my area. I'm a founder of this route. Water comes. I came in 1970. These are my routes. I'm the owner. I have a license to it. They both have licenses. This is what makes them fun.
So is there no agreement? Is it 2019?
No, they are refusing to sit down now.
I'm saying the 2019 agreement that outlines who is who.
They no longer respect that thing.
They don't respect.
They don't. They are still killing each other. They agreed that they will work together, 50-50. I think Bagiliza 2 years and then they went back to killing each other. Should we have that? if it was only them, maybe we should accept and see whether they finish each other. But now ordinary citizens are affected. But also, it's not all of them who wants this situation. You know, when you get approached by individuals in associations to say, MEC, I don't know, but don't pull back. You know, continue to help us get to the finality of this matter. We want this matter resolved. We want to work for our children. These are genuine taxi operators who are wanting a solution to a problem they see. It's a problem. But then we can't say, company race, you know, we rather die over our dead body. And now what do we do? Because both of you claim to exist in that space. And when we say share, they signed the pledge. It's there. Yes. And they were unable. They couldn't finish 3 years working together. They continued to kill each other. Yes, we admit our fault, that the system has been weakened and decapacitated for quite some time. And now we're trying to correct it. And when you try to correct, they say, and all of them want you to take their side. There's a side part, you know. The others were accusing me, and then the one who accused Uguti so it's a mess.
So how do you amend? I mean, how foolproof is it? Well, it's not foolproof because we know that there was interference with the system that you used to give these routes, because there's a human element, right? So the operating licenses, at some point you have to deal with people and so on and so forth.
You know, there's an instances where I'm told there's operating licenses issued on a Sunday, not at the departmental offices in a restaurant, and some were issued in internet cafes. Sure. So you can see some of these people are outside the system. Maybe they were our officials of government and they have left the system, but they continued using the system for their own benefits. So those are the things that we are dealing with, and that's why we say the system needs an overhaul. The Premier pronounced that we are going to be repurposing some of the infrastructure in negotiations with SANRAL, and we've started engaging. The team technically will be sitting down with SANRAL to outline our problem statement and look into how can the facility help us reposition our PRI. PRI is our provincial regulator entity. It's compromised. I don't want to lie to you and say it's not compromised. It's compromised. There's a corrupt and a corruptee relationships. There's a lot of operating licenses that are illegal. There's face value documents that continue to be stolen from time to time. There's people moving around with vehicles in our province with fake details. And that's why now when you put law enforcement on the ground, then you don't see taxis operating. Then the question is, but we are here to protect you. Why are you running away? So we have about... They're saying
some are operating with receipts, and now you're going to deal with that.
The receipt is... okay, there's this process. Once we have an operating license, you must renew it. And I'm told that there has been glitches in the system, that it takes long. But then the agreement was you'll use the receipt and your old operating license together to pass by as and when you are stopped in our stop and checks. But then in most cases, they don't have the old permit. And just today, the officials were telling me that the other one produced a receipt. And in checking that receipt, it doesn't exist. It's a fake receipt. The other one produced a receipt, yes, but it's not a renewal receipt. It's a new receipt. And they all know you can't operate when you don't have the license with. And they all say it. MEC, out of frustration, we want to work. We bought cars before we got operating licenses. Sometimes in Zama Tablapu, we are sorry. Some are apologizing and they are wanting to be regularized. And that's what we are saying. Let's help you while dealing with the challenges of conflict of routes. Let's also help you regularize you and fix the system, amend the routes. It will take us a bit of a long time. There's prescribed way of going about it. We are ready. We are doing that. We are wanting to help them. And that's why we want them on the table.
Yeah. Because so you're saying with the police now being out there, you are seeing a decrease in vehicles without operating licenses?
We're seeing a decrease in operations.
In operations completely?
Yeah, because they know they are illegal. You know, some of the cars we impound are stolen vehicles. Some are vehicles with heavy arms, unlicensed arms. We arrested some of the people yesterday. I'm told 2 people were arrested because of the criminal activities that they were involved on. These are the most wanted individuals driving taxis in our province. So it's quite complex, like I say. It's quite complex, and we need them. Remember, this is an industry that we must all do our part to make sure that we protect it and defend it, because we associate it with our black heritage as black people in this country. But then it has contributed a lot to our economy, and that's why we want them at the table. Not that we fear them, not that they're bullying us, but to say where are the opportunities and how do we work together to these opportunities. The routes in dispute are lucrative routes, obviously, and the other says let's share, the other says I don't want to share. And Soweto is landlocked, you know. That part, if you know Soweto, it's like a Lesotho in South Africa.
Yeah.
So in one way or the other, we must find a solution that help us to get them to work together.
I'm going to take a break. We'll talk about solutions in a moment. The MEC for Transport in Gauteng with us, Kedibone Diale-Tlabela. If you're familiar with that particular aspect of issues, you can also weigh in on that conversation. 072-110-5584. Drop us an X at Newzroom 405. Back in a moment. Back live tonight on In Focus. Gauteng Transport MEC Kedibone Diale-Tlabela still with us today. She comes from a meeting at Uncle Tom's Hall. It's meeting with the associations to try and get to the bottom of it. So, MEC, you're saying there is a process underway. The process that's underway it's not favoring any of them. It seems they will all be upset at some point.
Ours is to look for a people-centered solution. And that's why you see us consulting with the people who are affected in Soweto. We did a public participation process today as part of giving feedback. Where are we from the time we met with them on the 3rd of April to date, but also was to say to them, how do we move forward? What do you think should happen as the people who are using the services? And unfortunately for them, the people are saying they must work together. We must collapse them, have one association, one permit, and ensure that they are able to provide a service to them as people of Soweto together and be able to transport them to various places. Communities don't want it. They say we have tried, but this is what we must do. And unfortunately, that there's a process to do that. We will have to follow it. And if you ask me, MEC, what is it that you are doing? You know, why can't you just implement the law, move on, and tell these guys that, I've decided this way. It's not how democracy works. Democracy is quite expensive. Democracy that we are in is public participatory. That requires us to consult.
Yeah.
And that's why we will continue to knock on their doors to say, come to the table. It's a painful process. It's quite sad. I was just sharing with you what I go through.
I'm listening to you, and I don't know what your legislature empowers you to do, but previously when I spoke to MEC Mamabulo when he was in this portfolio, one of the issues that I challenge with what you're suggesting immediately that comes to mind is that these associations are economic power. So if you're saying you're going to collapse them into one, you're going to need to be convincing each side to collapse their economic power that they have, because they collect membership. There's money that's involved there that does all sorts of things, including some criminal activity in some instances. So how do you bring them on board to say collapse all these things?
We are using everything that we have to arrive at the best solution to this problem. We've got law enforcers working with us, different states, agencies that we work with us within the security cluster to gather information and get to know, because obviously we must test and share that if this solution is to be implemented, what is to happen. And one of the things that if we are to put alternative transport, we all have experience, they will want to fight. So when you are to put alternative transport, you must have a plan, a security plan in place. Same applies to this decision. If we are to collapse them into one, we need then to get them to a democratization project of electing leaders for this one association. It will be a power breaker. Somebody was telling me the fees, the fines, the monies they pay to individuals as individual operators. But they don't like it. They don't want it. Those who are genuine in the business, they don't want it because it's taken from their pockets. These poor women and men who uses their pension monies to get into their business, into the business. So those are the things. We need to also protect them. We need to protect the vulnerable that are operating in the space. We need to protect the vulnerable that are using these public transport services. And the only way to do it is if there are economic powers, they will understand that this is a business. They will understand that we as South Africans, we want it protected, but we don't want it to be a mafia-style business that can be hijacked by anyone. Like our spaza shops in townships are hijacked. We don't want to be transported by people we don't know. We want to relate. We know that Kintate Ngubani, we know that Kintate Mbata, we know Kintate Diale. We know them. So we don't want to find ourselves in a situation like we are finding ourselves in as South Africans. People selling sweets to our kids when we don't know them. I just made an example earlier that as we grew up, me and you, we are going to find Auntie Margaret who's selling there. So when you start buying cigarette at 15 years, she shouts at you, what are you doing? Who are you buying it for? And will be able to transmit the message at home. Same applies when you buy a lot of sweets. She will call your mother or tell your mother that, hey, buy castor oil. This one every day passes by the shop and buys sweets. And that's how we used to live life, and that's how we grew. Is that the case today? No, because our friends are in. We call them my friends. We don't even know their names. I'm not saying anything about, I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm saying there are things that we need to protect them for us as South Africans and protect only for ourselves. And once we allow the taxi industry to be hijacked by people who don't know
most wanted people who are driving the taxis. That is a concern of a different kind of degree to than having undocumented nationals selling sweets in our stores, which has got all sorts of implications.
Do you know we are starting to have them in the taxi industry? And that's what we found out from communities today. And we can't allow it. So you can imagine when two brothers fight and an external person comes in and they learn your modus operandi, that you don't love each other, you are killing each other, you can't resolve your issues, what will happen to us? And that's why I say we need to protect the industry. We need to protect them as pioneers in this industry against themselves, to understand we don't resolve issues the way they want them to resolve. The solution might not favor all of them, but I think the people will never be wrong. I believe people are never wrong. It's mothers in their numbers. It's women in their numbers in those walls where I come from. Because they felt the pain. They feel the pain. It's worse, Bratabo. It's bad. And these guys need to come to the table.
So, I mean, you are, to me, talking something akin to a process that led us to signing a pledge, which in itself took months and months. Right? I don't know if you got months and months to be able to do this right now.
We do have time. We had time to transit into democracy. And part of how we got into democracy was dialogues through CODESA, where people were opening up, people crying it out. And this was to save us to be able to transit smoothly as a country. And from that experience, I believe talks will save us. We believe so much as South Africans in talks. I believe those fathers, they will at some point come to the table. We will be meeting with women in the taxi industry. They've requested their own separate meetings. I tell you, they will come with the same solution that the people want. Because women put lives first, and they are not about egos. And that's why we're appealing to bontate mo le gore let's leave our egos. If it's emotional issues, we can even call faith-based organizations are saying we are available to do the counseling, to do the mediation between the two. Let's not start the legal processes that I will be following the law and say, this is what I must do, let me follow it to the letter. We are still in a consultative process where we are trying to get everybody and get their buy-in and get everybody on board to say, this can be our final solution and our best solution for us to be able to live together in peace and unity.
MEC, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming. Gauteng Transport MEC, Kedibone Diale-Tlabela there with us today. When we continue, Minister at Home Affairs on the white paper on immigration. Stay with us.